Here we go, and it is time for another sprint zone. This one's kind of a special. It's from the Friday ride. I typically don't do the Friday rides because it's a lot of work to do these or whatever, but um, I decided to make an exception here. Roby's always saying, hey, you ought to bring your camera, you ought to bring your camera, and I'm like, I don't know. So I figured I would bring it this time, and it was okay. Probably something worth talking about, but I digress a little bit, and here we go. Let's get into it. So we have the run in into the sprint zone, which is the Boydlake uphill sprint zone, where people like to start jockeying for position. And we've got this neutral zone here because of all the roundabouts. If it gets totally strung out and there is traffic, we've had issues before where the first two or three riders make it through and not many others do, and that's not a good thing. Looking at some of the people here, I like to be in the bike lane, but I also like to control the lane here. So it's not so bad that we take up the whole lane, and with no cars back, it's not that big of a deal. But here we go, heading into this section where now there's jockeying for position. This is the section of the roundabouts that I talked about, where if you are caught back, it could be a problem. So, and we get strung out. I don't. Oh, I like this being a neutral zone. It's fun to fly through here fast. I like this. But with these roundabouts the way they are, it's also dangerous. In this instance, there aren't any real cars, so there's no problem. We could have probably went a little faster, but we don't know that. So we kind of make this a neutral zone. And I do believe there was a speech given before this ride that in fact was going to occur. But we've got some recalcitrant riders up the road that may have not heard, so I'm gonna go up and like give them the riot here, or the what's going on here. So there's a new guy, Brandon. He's his first ride. We got Dean up front. We got Marcelo. I guess either they joined the ride late and missed the instruction, but it's basically like Isla's gonna set the pace before the sprint zone. And at least I counsel Brandon. The other guys should know what they're doing. But people have that whole rabbit thing. They can't stand to see people go up the road. And this was one of the reasons that, at least on the Tuesday ride, we instantiated the sprint zones. You get that stuff out of your system, swing it around a little bit, and you don't have to do that during the rest of the ride. But I guess that isn't good enough here, where folks just want to, either for safety reasons, they don't like the group, they're pissed off at somebody, they just want to like be out there, be the carrot, but they're out there. So now I settle back in, and we're in a big posse here, and everyone's in pretty much, agreement that we're going to start the melee properly, which does state that the melee may not in fact begin until we make the corner and everyone is around the corner onto Boydlake Road. And I'd like to take time at this point to thank Scott for his telemetry and his video that you will see shortly. People now starting to get in position here, and we're starting to look good. People getting organized. Folks are setting up. The heads of state are lined up because they want a good position here. There's Josh tightening down the shoes there. That's always a sign that it is go time. And it is kind of amazing. I find myself tightening my shoes up a couple times during a ride because they just get loose. I don't know if it's like water volume or whatever, but it's nice to do that because it's amazing. Just a couple millimeters of slop around there. That's just wattage that is lost. And here we go. Making the corner here. No one's really hitting it yet because everyone needs to be around the corner. We see the two riders up the road that will not be even participating because they're going to miss out on this one. Looking at my power, instantaneous in the 200s, which is pretty good. 30-second, 190. It's not a picnic, but it's not super hard yet either. and we're starting to get organized. And there is a slight wind coming off my left shoulder, and I'm basically guttered out here. And you can see yours truly in the frame in the upper right, as Scott is right behind me. It's kind of good to have my own personal cameraman behind me, but I am out there kind of in the wind. See JVP slots up on the right. I'm not quite certain where he was going doing that. Kind of surprised me a little bit because with the shelter being over there, I could have easily just slammed over there depending on what Curtis and the Red was doing. And here we go. We pass our riders. Thank you for your carrot service or whatever. But this is the last time we'll see them. Scott looking good with the mirrored glasses there. And it is go time. The speed is hotting up. Looks like, I'm not certain who's on the front. I believe it's Ben Miller, and he is flipping drilling it here. No one wants to go around. And you can see now, even myself trying to sit in with my 30-second power, in the mid 200s for a little bit there. Scott sheltered nicely, and you can see his power's a little bit lower than mine for 30 seconds. So he must be getting a tiny bit of respite from being to my right. It's amazing. Like, positioning is just so important here. So I'm out in the wind, pushing hard, and you can see as others are being dispatched here that this is like no joke. It is go time. 30-second power, over 300. And Mr. Miller, I don't know what he had to eat today, his Wheaties or whatever, but he is going for it. Scott comes up, and we see the legendary JC behind me looking strong as others are dispatched. Across the railroad tracks, and this is the point where I feel, freer because I don't like those railroad tracks. But notice here, Ben pulls off, and no one wants to take up the mantle. No one wants to keep it going. And it becomes very tactical, and it allows the boys from the back to close up here. Looks like the new guy Brandon is on the front, and here's an attack by Josh. It looks good. He's going for it, and you can see the power hotting up there. My wattage for 400 for a second there. Scott's was up there for a little while, and Josh is quickly brought back because the effort that Mr. Miller was throwing out was just tremendous. People were probably just trying to recover, and I'm not certain how long they would have lasted. Now it has become very tactical. Like, Scott has moved up, and Scott's in really good position. Looking at his wattage, 170. It's pretty much mirroring mine during the slow portion here. 30-second power down to 121 as people begin to recover. I'm still out in the wind a little bit, and you can see Scott's power a little bit lower than mine as people go. And this new guy, Brandon, and he hits it hard. JC comes around. Roby goes hard. There goes Josh getting dispatched there, and I'm trying to hang on with my power over 500 for a little bit. But I am not long for this one. Coming up here, may be able to make contact with Curtis there. And then there's Roby right behind. It looks like Ben, and there's a gap opening up. And then Roby goes for it, and Curtis goes hard around Ben. At this point, I just don't have it to make that. Maybe if I had a little more shelter, but it's game over for me. And you can see in the upper right, Scott has this one, looks like well in hand. Pushing hard, 30-second power, over 580 watts. Not many people can match that one. And that was well done. Well done, Scott. A nice win. And that's pretty all for this special edition of the Sprint Zone. And a good time was had by all. Until next time, peace out, everyone. Probably won't do this that often, but, it's nice to have a special once in a while.